need multiple ambulances.
4 young children shot near Angleton, 2 of them dying from their injuries, according to the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office. The person they believe did this?
Romulus, the mother of the children, is a shooter.
31-year-old Oninda Romulus.
This tragedy has occurred inside of the vehicle.
It all unfolded Saturday morning when the Sheriff's Office says Romulus called them at 4:48 a.m.
She gave us information that we needed to come to her location. We didn't know exactly what we were responding to at the time.
Brazoria County Sheriff Bo Stallman says deputies responded near FM 521 and 288B and provided life-saving measures to the 4 children until ambulances arrived.
We need multiple ambulances.
Sadly, they say a 13-year-old boy and 3-year-old girl died, while an 8-year-old boy and 9-year-old girl were taken via life flight to a hospital in Houston, where they are currently in stable condition. This investigation spans across county lines, about an hour and a half north to Montgomery County to a home in Porter, where the Sheriff's Office says Romulus lives. A family member told ABC 13 Romulus and her children moved to Texas from Georgia a few months ago.
Court documents obtained by KHOU 11 share Romulus told investigators her children were with the devil. According to the affidavit, law enforcement says surveillance video shows Romulus drove to this gas station off Highway 288 in Angleton, where she called 911. When asked during her interview why she called authorities, Romulus told investigators, quote, "Instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them," and continued saying, "Kill them all."
He always waves and we tell him hi, and they come back by, and I have a little Yorkie, and sometimes she'll stop and ask if she can pet the puppy. Just seeing them Friday, and they were happy and on their way, telling us hi and bye, and figuring I would see them again Monday.
I know the world's crazy right now, and everybody's going through something, but those kids are innocent, and that was wrong.
Heartbreaking to think that anything could be so bad that you have to take your life. I don't understand.
3 years ago, she stood in paternity court fighting to prove who fathered her son. She brought 2 men, DNA tested both. Neither one was the father. The judge told her to stop being selfish and think about the child. 3 years later, that child and 3 others would be in a vehicle, and she'd be the one who pulled the trigger. Make it make sense. Let me tell you something about Oninda Romulus. Before she became the woman arrested for murdering her own children, before the $14 million bond, before the national headlines, she was already making headlines. Just not the kind anyone wants. Rewind to 3 years earlier. Paternity court, national television. Oninda walks into that courtroom with a problem she created herself. She's pregnant and she doesn't know who the father is. Not because it's some big mystery, but because she'd been sleeping with 2 different men in the same week. Her fiancé, Dwayne Seymour, and another man named Jeremy Covington. Now here's where it gets messy. Dwayne thought the baby was his. He proposed to her with his mother's ring. His mother's ring, y'all. That's how serious he was. He loved this woman. He was ready to build a life with her. But Oninda, she was already playing games. See, she'd convinced herself that Dwayne was cheating. A friend told her she saw him at a club, said he was getting intimate behind a dumpster. Oninda didn't see it herself, didn't catch him in the act, but she heard it, and that was enough. So what does she do? She decides to cheat back, out of spite. Her words, not mine. Fast forward 3 years, Oninda is now 31 years old. She's living in Montgomery County, Texas, not Georgia anymore. She'd relocated. And that little boy from paternity court, he's older now, and he's not alone. Oninda has 3 more children, 4 kids total, different fathers most likely based on the pattern we already know. But what happened in those 3 years? What shifted? What broke? We don't know all the details yet. What we do know is that by early morning on one particular day, something in Oninda snapped. Or maybe it didn't snap. Maybe it was always there, that ability to think only of herself, that pattern of manipulation, that lack of accountability. Because at 4:48 in the morning, Oninda Romulus called 911. She wasn't calling for help. She was calling to confess. Brazoria County, Texas. A Shell gas station near Angleton. Early morning, before the sun even thinks about rising. Most people are asleep. The roads are quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy. Inside a vehicle parked at that gas station, 4 children are about to experience something no child should ever go through. Their mother is in the driver's seat. and she has a. We don't know what was said in those final moments. We don't know if the children were awake or sleeping. We don't know if they saw it coming or if it happened so fast they didn't have time to understand. What we do know is that Aninda Ramalos shot each of her 4 children, all of them, one by one. The oldest child, her son, the same boy from paternity court, the one 2 men raised thinking he was theirs, he was shot. The youngest, barely out of toddler years, the 2 in the middle, 4 gunshots. 4 children, inside a vehicle, their own mother pulling the trigger. 2 of those children died right there. The oldest boy and the youngest girl, gone. Just like that, the other 2, a boy and a girl, were critically wounded, bleeding, fighting for their lives in the back seat of that car. And then Aninda did something that makes this whole thing even more chilling. She picked up her phone. She called 911 at exactly 4:48 in the morning. Her call came through to the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office. She told them what she'd done. She told them she shot her children. She told them where she was. And then she waited. When deputies arrived at that Shell station, they weren't prepared for what they found. Nobody could be. 4 children, all with gunshot wounds. 2 already gone. 2 barely holding on. And their mother sitting there, calm enough to have made the call herself. The deputies immediately started performing life-saving measures on the children. They did everything they could while waiting for paramedics to arrive. When the ambulance got there, it was clear the 2 surviving children needed to be airlifted. Life flight helicopters came in and rushed them to a hospital in the Houston area. Critical condition, touch and go. Meanwhile, investigators started piecing together what happened. The evidence was telling a story that nobody wanted to believe. All 4 children had been shot inside the vehicle. There was no sign of a struggle, no sign of an intruder, no sign that anyone else had been there. The weapon was recovered. The shell casings were there. The forensics lined up. And Aninda wasn't denying it. She'd already admitted it on that 911 call. But the question everyone was asking, the question investigators needed answered, was why? What would make a mother do this? What was going on in her life that led to this moment? Detectives went to her residence in Montgomery County. That's where she'd been living, about an hour away from Brazoria County. They needed to understand what brought her to that gas station in the middle of the night with her children. They needed to know if there were warning signs, if anyone knew she was in crisis, if she'd told anyone what she was planning to do. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office assisted with the investigation. They searched her home. They interviewed people who knew her. They tried to build a timeline of her movements leading up to that morning, and slowly the picture started coming together. But even with all the evidence, even with her confession, it still didn't make sense. Because how do you make sense of something this senseless? The surviving children were interviewed once they were stable enough to talk. Can you imagine waking up in a hospital, in pain, confused, and having to tell investigators what your own mother did to you, what she did to your siblings? Those children are going to carry that trauma for the rest of their lives. They survived, yes, but at what cost? They lost their siblings. They lost their mother, not to death, but to something arguably worse, to a choice she made. Aninda Ramalos was arrested at the scene. She didn't run. She didn't resist. She'd called the police on herself after all. What was there left to do? She was charged with 2 counts of murder for the 2 children who died, and 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for the 2 children who survived. 4 charges total, 4 lives shattered. The bond was set at $14 million, $5 million for each murder charge, $2 million for each assault charge. That's the kind of bond that tells you the court believes you're not just a flight risk, you're a danger, period. Aninda appeared before a judge for her initial hearing. No emotion, no tears, just a woman who'd crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. The judge read the charges, the bond amount was announced, and Aninda was led back to her cell in the Brazoria County Jail. The Brazoria County Sheriff held a press conference shortly after the arrest. He stood in front of reporters and cameras and tried to explain the unexplainable. He called it an unthinkable, unimaginable tragedy. He thanked the first responders who tried to save those children. He asked the community for prayers, but even he couldn't answer the question everyone wanted answered. Why? Reporters asked about motive.
Yesterday, Brazoria County deputies responded to an unthinkable, unimaginable tragedy. This event has shaken our community, and we are all feeling the loss. While this remains an active investigation, I do want to share what details with you that I can at this point. Evidence indicates that the driver of the vehicle identifies as a 31-year-old Oninda Romulus. She's the mother of the 4 children involved. All 4 children have sustained gunshot wounds. Sadly, a 13-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl did not survive. We are thankful to report that an 8-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl are now in stable condition. We believe that the evidence shows that this tragedy has occurred inside of the vehicle, and that Romulus, the mother of the children, is a shooter. At 4:48 a.m. yesterday, Romulus called the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office. When deputies arrived, they immediately began providing lifesaver measures to each children until medical help could arrive. The 2 surviving children were life-flighted into a Houston area hospital, where they remain in stable condition. Romulus was later arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, with a total bond set at $14 million. Romulus is a current resident of Montgomery County here in Texas, where Sheriff Wesley Doolittle is the sheriff there of Montgomery County, and he is here with us today. His office has assisted us with investigative tasks that have taken place there in Montgomery County. Our investigators, along with responding agencies, continue to collect and analyze evidence in this case, in this ongoing investigation. I also want to thank the people of Brazoria County and our surrounding communities. The prayers, the messages and support shown for these children, and also for the first responders involved in this, mean more to us than what words can express. It is impossible to make sense of a senseless tragedy like this, but we will do everything we can to seek justice for these children. I will now open this up for a few questions. However, before I do want to be clear that there are still many details that cannot be released at this point, okay? So, you have any questions? Yes, ma'am. Again, that is part of the ongoing investigation that we're still looking into. So, at what point did what happen? She called, yes, she called 911. I believe the time was what, 4:48 a.m. Is that what I said? Yeah. Well, yes. She called and our deputies responded. She called and she gave us information that we needed to come to her location. We didn't know exactly what we were responding to at the time. That's exactly where her permanent residence was. That's part of the ongoing investigation. That's where her residence was, so that's why we went to that residence. Again, that's part of the ongoing investigation that we're continuing to look into, and I can assure you that we will do everything in our power to find justice for these children. Can you ask your question again? Yes, they have been interviewed. They're going to continue to cooperate as well. I'm not going to mention much about the custody situation. There's a lot of things that are still it's an active investigation. Okay. There really is not. you know, like I said, at this point, this is still an ongoing. However, what is most important is that our team is working on this. We've been burning the midnight oil on this ever since this dropped, right? So I can assure you we're looking into this, and there is a lot of stuff that is not able to be released at this point. So.
The sheriff said they were still investigating, asked about the weapon. He confirmed the gun was used but wouldn't release specifics, asked why she was in Brazoria County when she lived in Montgomery County. He said that was part of the ongoing investigation.
All right, I got one more. I'm still, like I said, it was a weapon that she did utilize, and she did shoot. I'm not going to tell you all the calibers and all the details of it. I'm not. There's not time for that. Yes. I can, again, that is part of the active and ongoing investigation that we're looking into. I apologize.
One reporter asked if there was any indication this was coming, any warning signs. The sheriff paused. He said they were looking into everything: her mental health, her criminal history, her relationships, anything that might explain how a mother ends up in a gas station parking lot at 4:48 in the morning shooting her own children. The truth is, there might not be an explanation that satisfies anyone. Because even if we find out she was struggling mentally, even if we find out she was in an abusive situation, even if we find out she felt trapped or desperate or hopeless, none of that justifies what she did. None of that brings those 2 children back. None of that heals the 2 who survived. The case is still unfolding. Aninda Ramalho sits in a jail cell waiting for trial. The 2 surviving children are recovering physically, but the emotional scars, those don't heal. The community of Brazoria County is still reeling, and the rest of us are left asking the same question we always ask in cases like this. How did we get here? 3 years ago, a judge told Aninda Ramalho to stop thinking about herself, to think about her child, to clean up the mess she'd made. She didn't listen, and now 2 children are dead. 2 are traumatized, and a community has to figure out how to move forward from something that should never have happened in the first place. This is Unheard Cries TV. We tell the stories that need to be told, the uncomfortable ones, the painful ones, because ignoring them doesn't make them go away. Rest in peace to the 2 children who lost their lives, and prayers up for the 2 who survived. They didn't ask for any of this. None of them did.